stops and retreats. Rotates to Dante. Open three bypasses. Slow. Mo. Joe for three.
This is Ed Favors. We're ready to tip off. Are you? Let's do this.
Jazz getting ready for the Rockets. We're on a brutal back-to-back. We'll look at some of the things that make the Rockets so good. We'll talk about smoothing. Oh, it's so sexy to talk smoothing. Not. But there are some things that have to be mentioned. That all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Pow. Good morning, or whenever it is you might be tuning into this. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA Insider. If you're joining us in the morning, it's a cup of coffee together, hanging out, talking a little hoops. Thanks very much for doing that. I obviously have no personal pride. The fact that I'm willing to get in front of you on a screen while looking like this. Jam show again, because I got to get the kids, and I'm a little behind, so we'll see if I can get everything in. That I want to. Like us on Facebook, David Locke and Locked On Sports, Google Plus community for you as well, and Locked On Sports on Stitcher. We're home tonight against Houston. Should be a good one. And Detroit Saturday. Tickets available at UtahJazz.com. Let's get right into the NBA 5.
This is Rudy Gobert, and you are Locked On Jazz.
Thank you, Rudy. Nice win by Portland last night over Houston. That was a good game. That was enjoyable to watch. Some interesting things going on right now in the Western Conference. The one I'm noticing is the pressure to perform night in and night out with where the standings are is wearing some teams down. I mean, there's to some level, or one of two things going on. It's either wearing teams down or there's almost a level of, it just doesn't matter where we finish. It's going to be such hell to get through the playoffs anyway. But Memphis is suddenly 5-5. Mike Conley's not playing particularly well, which is suddenly opening up the chance for a 2 seed, which Portland is now 2 games back, and so is Houston after last night. Clippers got a very impressive win in Oklahoma City last night. They are holding to the 5 spot, a game and a half back of Houston, and San Antonio's won 6 in a row. It's not the most impressive 6 in a row, but it's 6 in a row. And they're just a game back at the 6th spot along the way. Thunder, by the way, for all the talk of Russell Westbrook's brilliance and trading Kevin Durant, and it was a very nice job yesterday by Sam Presti to completely quell that. But they're 3-4 in their last 7. I actually go back to the statistic PAC, points above average created. Russell Westbrook's not Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's every night's PAC is 4. For all the greatness Westbrook's doing here, night in and night out, and PAC doesn't even count turnovers. He's good, but he's not Russell Westbrook 4. He's not LeBron James. He's not in that category of things that you talk about when you talk about MVP candidates, actually, on the offensive side of the floor. It's at least worth noting. The other one that's suddenly worth noting in Oklahoma City is in the 10 games Enes Kanter has played with the Thunder, the defensive rating with Kanter on the floor is 109, and with him off the floor is 100. Ennis has done a fabulous job there and is playing the game a little differently than he did with us. He's moving the ball, he's passing. There's some aspects of what he's doing that's very impressive. And the core of it, though, it's taken 10 games for him to get back to pretty much exactly the ratings that he had when he was with the Jazz, discrepancy offensively and defensively. And that's still going to always be the question. We always talked about that. Will he ever really figure out a feel for the game? The big news story of the day yesterday in the NBA had to do with cap smoothing, which is seriously the most boring topic you can get, but really, really important. What this is that when the new TV deal kicks in for 16-17, the salary cap is going to jump possibly as much as $30 million. The league wanted to find a way to do this progressively, and that the union has refuted that and won't allow that to happen. So the impact of this is that in the next 2 years, next year the cap's normal. The year after, the cap will jump 30%. million up to maybe as much as 90 million. There's a huge impact on this that no one is talking about. It's not the luxury tax. It's not even the salary cap. It's the bottom. There is a rule that you must spend 90% of the salary cap as a team. If you don't spend 90% of the salary cap, then whatever money that you, let's say the salary cap is 90 million, you only spend 80. Excuse me, let's say the salary cap's 90, the apron is 80, and you only spend 75. Then that 5 million gets divided amongst your players. Okay, I actually think there's a really interesting thing to do if you're a team where you say to your guys, we're a year away, we really like you, we can't give you raises, but since we do like what you're doing, we're actually just not going to sign all of our players. We're going to be under the cap, and therefore you guys will get extra money. I wonder if someone's going to do. I would assume someone's going to do this at that point. But the amount of spending that is going to take place because you have to basically get to 90% of the salary cap is that's going to be the issue. Everyone's talking about, okay, teams have got to go, if the cap really hits 90 million, which I think it's 81 million. Even if it's 85 million, you've got to get to 76.5. Or else you're just handing out money. That's the real story here. That there is a almost mandatory amount of money that each team has to spend. That's what's going to make this the craziest aspect of everything. Finally, only other note of interest last night was Atlanta got thumped in Denver. Probably not that big a deal, altitude, playing there, etc. But just a little surprising. Little surprising out there. By the way, Portland statistically looks every bit a title contender. The loss of Wesley Matthews is the latest reason to say, all right, they're not. Probably true. Their bench is really not good. Myers Leonard was great for his 8 minutes last night, but they don't have anybody on their bench playing more than 15 minutes. Steve Blake, they're asking Steve Blake to give him 20 off the bench now. Otherwise, but maybe that's it. Maybe in the playoffs, every starter really does play 37, 38 minutes. They just roll those 5 guys out. Then they're pretty good. It's interesting, at least. But they're really short guys at this point. Houston is too. It was eye-opening watching Houston last night of what James Harden has to do for them to win. Last night he only had 18 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and it was clear that was not a sufficient performance. That is your NBA 5.
This is Derek Favors, and you are Locked on Jazz.
Let's get into a few things here. One fun little salary cap note for you. I don't want to get too deep into this, but I mentioned the other day that there's a chance that if you're the Jazz, you might actually have to go sign a player for your $3.7 million to actually get something out of it. The other one, and it didn't turn out to much, I think it was the Steve Novak deal, but the Jazz last year had a bunch of players they didn't have any interest in who were on non-guaranteed contracts. Eric Murphy, Malcolm Thomas, John Lucas, all of these guys who then they could put that cap money together and make a trade in the offseason. The Jazz don't have any of those players right now. They have the only non-guaranteed deals they have are Trevor Booker and Elijah Millsap, and they like both of those players an awful lot. And Rodney Hood is a low money deal. They don't want to give away Rodney Hood. So wouldn't be surprised if before March, whatever 90 days before the draft is, March 25th or so, that the Jazz don't sign a bunch of players to contracts with non-guarantees on the next 2 years, really as much as anything, so that they have the ability to trade them if necessary. But the Jazz are missing some of those pieces. If the Jazz don't have Gordon tonight, it's going to be a tough one. We saw it the other night. It's just this team is really limited scoring, and when they don't have Gordon's other guys getting exposed a little bit. Rockets are really interesting. The Rockets for all the Moneyball offense talk, which they certainly do, they take 40% of their shots from three. They use the most amount of possessions in the mid restricted area or three. By a good deal. They also do some interesting things. They take 14% of their shots from the corner three. The next closest is 9.6. There's nobody else. That's just a huge jump. So they find a way to get the corner three. It's largely Harden's penetration. The Blazers and Rockets last night were interesting because they both were the number one team in the league at defending the above the break three. But that's where the Rockets are interesting. The Rockets are the number 3 defensive team in the NBA, and largely because they take the above the break three and hold people, or they prevent people from making the above the break three at 31%, number 1 in the NBA, or the corner three at 32%, which is number 1 in the NBA. The corner three is not a huge part of our offense, but frankly, it's the shot our guys can make. Trey, Joe Ingles, Elijah Millsap are all fairly high-level difference between corner three and above the break, maybe as much as 10 or 12 percentage points. The above the break three is a tough shot for those guys, but that's above the break is where the line goes from straight to breaking. It's not equal all the way across the board. So that's, keep an eye on that one, because I think see how the Rockets defend that. What the Rockets want you to do is fall into the trap where you just take a bunch of mid-range jumpers. You've almost got to pump fake your three, get in, pump fake the mid-range, and then keep working till you finally break them down to get that. We might be okay at that just because we pass the ball and use so much of the clock. Some interesting numbers on Favors and Gobert together. Since the All-Star break, with Favors and Gobert together, we're +1 on the floor. Favors without Gobert were +66. Gobert without Favors were +15. So while I really do believe that the Favors-Gobert combo is the hugest difference to everything that's going on, when they have been separated, we have been better. The defense between Favors and Gobert is at 91.3 together, which is just out of this world great. With Favors by himself, it's 79.5 since the All-Star break, which is not there's no way that can be maintained. And Gobert is 93.2. All three of those are amazing numbers. But it's interesting. Gobert by himself, then Favors and Gobert, and the best of all, it's Favors by himself. Again, that can't last. And just for interest, since the All-Star break with Dante on the floor, it's 88.9. Dante's defense is really special. In fact, I actually took a moment yesterday with my dad and sat down and we watched Mike Conley's shots from the other night when the Jazz played Memphis, to try to just show how good the Jazz have become defensively and what they're able to do. And there was some interesting stuff. That the two things that jump out at me right now are really the tag team. By replacing Kanter with Gobert, Favors goes out on the floor and now can guard outside, and he's done an incredible job. That's where I think some of those numbers show is that Favors' ability to go out on the floor and guard people is really amazing. The secondary part of it is that if you beat him, instead of having Kanter's rim protection, you have Gobert's rim protection. That's just such a dramatically mammoth difference. And I think it really shows. The other thing is just the agility and movement of both these guys. And actually, we'll do this here for a second. We'll see if I can. Let's get this. See if I can get this up. It's not quite the way I want it, as always is the case here. But let me see if I can pull up. I'll pull up the Conley. It's not all perfect, and there's not every one I want to show you. But let me see if I can pull this up. And this is going to be a pretty small video just because that's the way it works. And also because of the fact that it's small video.
Not shooting a high percentage. 30.
All right, so if we watch this here, what makes the Jazz so good defensively, some of these are just misses. That one's just if you watch this sequence of Conley misses from Memphis the other night, what you see is the fact that
It's not shooting a high percentage.
Let's see if this screen turns out to be better for you. Yes, looks much better. What you'll see here is just, the Jazz are just getting in the way of play. So, that's actually Conley misses, Favors, alters it. They actually got beat on that, but Exum alters his route. There's just a bunch of little tiny things that are good there. I've got about 3 minutes to do this. Conley's actually going to make a layup on this play. Ball fakes. And that's a tough look. I mean, if he makes that shot, you're giving him that. This one, I think, shows Dante's length defensively. So they go to the 2-point guard look here that night. And watch this. Dante gets jab left off a left-hander Conley. He's going to go under the pick and still alter the shot. Okay, that length difference is pretty mammoth right there. There's a play coming up here I really want to show you. There's one, and I wasn't really I did this with my dad yesterday. It's interesting. The recovery, and also when you're seemingly this play, the Jazz are going to be this is a beautiful play. They've run all the action to the right. Jazz are dead to rights here. Dante's being guarded, picked by Gasol. Ingles is down, but this is Courtney Lee in the left corner is a very good three-point shooter. Conley comes around the pick. Great pick by Gasol. Dante's trailing him. Look at Gobert, just staying with him, alternate shot. He doesn't get off. That right there is why the Jazz have become so good defensively, because the fact is that play, right there is the fact that they were beat. I mean, that's exactly what Memphis wants to run. That's their number one play. It's your number one defense. You beat it. This is where Dante's just special. Open floor. Conley hesitates, drives with him, stops, blocks, knocks the shot away. That's just really, really special stuff right there. Most guys in the league can't do that. I think we might have one more here. Let's watch this one for a second. I think this is going to end up being a double pick up angle left. Though Conley makes this layup. So no, it's this. Here it is. It's this play right here is the last one I want to watch. This is beautifully done on this play. Okay, so they're going to run it around over here. Jazz switch, and now they reset, and now they have a double pick waiting angle left high with Gasol and Green. The Jazz now have Gobert and Favors both outside the three-point line, and they have Courtney Lee in one corner and Claythus in the other, both over 40% three-point shooters. This is brutal to defend. It gets worse because Joe Ingles gets beat inside the Gasol pick, and they split the pick. And watch Favors' ability to stay with Conley and make him miss. And the other one that just has to be mentioned here on this is watch ever so subtly what Dante Exum does. So here they are. They get beat. Dante sees it. And look at Dante's reaching in on Conley. It's not a lot right there, and he probably could slide his feet a tiny bit more, but he's got his hand in there. So now Favors is shadowing Conley, the basket on his left hand going, and that just changes who you are a little bit and misses. But those two plays by Favors and Gobert there where Conley had them beat, and yet the Jazz were still able to stay with them the whole way. That's what's made the Jazz such a great defensive team, and that's why there's nothing fluky about this. Have a good day. That is tip-off.